All right. I had a little mishap on my first live. I completely spaced on creating a thumbnail. I had an old thumbnail up, and you don't want to mislead the people. But we back. Had to whip up a new thumbnail right quick, and now we back on. I'm gonna give it a little bit before I get into the topics today. It's gonna be a quick stream, so it ain't gonna be too long. But we're gonna go over some new stuff. First thing I want to say is thank you, and shout outs to everyone who viewed, commented, liked, disliked, whatever have you, just interacted with the past couple of days when I did the streams on the tanks. I appreciate all the feedback. I appreciate all the criticism, good or bad. I just appreciate the engagement. So I really do appreciate that. I'm going to try to keep this content going. I'm really excited. If you can't tell, I'm really excited for Season of Discovery and all that comes with it. One thing I do want to say is I've seen the comments. Some of y'all be getting pretty spicy. Like, just keep in mind, guys. Listen, Season of Discovery is new. It's gonna breed new content, and we're all gonna have a difference of opinion. My opinion is gonna be different from Tom, Chuck, Harry, Sally, Sue, and Mary, and that's okay. We all don't gotta agree on everything. And once the content is here, we all can flesh it out and figure it out for ourselves and play the best way we see fit. So don't get too hyped up in the comments. If you got a difference of opinion, direct it at me. Don't direct it at anyone else. Just direct it at me. We can have a dialogue about it. Keep it respectful and keep it pushing. But now that that's out the way, let's talk about some of the new information that's come out over the couple of days for Season of Discovery. First things first, namely, I guess Horde kind of felt mistreated because during the announcement for all the runes, they didn't get at least it wasn't shown that Horde was getting a variant of the King's buff, but we obviously saw that Druids are getting a variant of Wind Fury. Druids are a class that can be played on both sides, so clearly that means Alliance will have Wind Fury and Kings and Salvation, right? Whereas Horde wouldn't have the King's buff, so I don't think they have Salve either. I don't know if Tranquil Totem's a thing, but I don't think it's a thing. I don't think it's a thing in vanilla, but I could be wrong. But anyway, so Horde was kind of upset, and I think that's warranted, right? Like if the difference between Horde and Alliance, or one of the main differences, not everything, but one of the main differences is Horde have Shaman, Alliance have Paladin, and they bring unique buffs, and Alliance is getting that unique buff. I can understand Horde being upset. So Horde is getting their own variation of Kings, and we're going to go through that actually in the new rune system. But as you can see at the top of the screen here on Wildhead, Horde is getting the King's buff, and we're going to go over how they're getting it in a little bit. About 45 minutes ago, Blizzard said before they launched Season of Discovery, they're doing some bug fixes. I think this is great. Obviously, you don't want to release something in a broken state. And I think, and nothing's confirmed, but I think this kind of pushes to the fact that there's probably not going to be any new servers for Season of Discovery. Like, we're going to probably just use the Classic Era or the Season of Mastery servers. So I could be wrong. They could might pop out some new servers. They did for Hardcore. Who knows? But fixing old servers, I would think, kind of is silly if you're just going to put up new servers, but who knows? We'll see. All in all, I do like bug fixes. I do like fixes in general. Like, keeps things clean. All right, let's go back a little bit. And now let's talk about some of the new runes discovered on Season of Discovery. Warriors get a gladiator stance, kings for hunters. So if you click on this page on Wildhead, you'll see the list of, let me see, does it look a little better if I full screen it? Yeah, sure. If you look on Wildhead on the screen here, you get a list of all of the runes, but namely, well, there's one page with a list of all of the runes, but this one has specifics to the runes. So let's look at it. So not only what we getting in the title, but Druid's getting efflorescence. That's pretty big. And I thought it was weird that they gave Shamans Healing Rain, but they didn't give Efflow to Druids. So I'm happy to see Efflow for Druids. It gives them a little bit more AoE healing outside of Wild Growth. So I think the introduction of Efflow is really, really good. Everbloom is, I think, also something that's new. The Rejuvenation can now be active on targets affected by another Druid's Rejuvenation. That's really, really good too, because it's kind of like the Power Word Shield thing. Like, the reason why you couldn't bring multiple Disc Priests is because, one, weakened Soul, and two, you couldn't have two separate Power Word Shields. Like, they would override each other. So it was really hard historically in WoW to bring 2 Disc Priests because of that reason. And if you had 2 priests, one had to be holy and kind of diminish their use on Powered Shield. So something like Everbloom, I think, is really good too. Next, we have Gale Winds, pardon me. And this increases the damage done by your hurricane by 100%, and it no longer has a cooldown, and its mana cost is reduced by 20%. So clearly they're trying to give, I would say Boomkins mainly, but really just all Druids, right? Like, increasing the damage done on hurricane by 100% really is good for every spec of Druid. As long as the mana's there and they're reducing the mana cost, you can weave in a quick hurricane. In the Burning Crusade, when I was a Feral Druid, you best believe if I wasn't actively holding threat on something, I weave in a hurricane. A good example is the Hydro Raid. A lot of times, I would leave a lot of the ad tanking, the wave tanking to my Paladins, and once my priority target was dead, that freed me up to jump out of bear form, step away from a little bit, and cast out a hurricane, and it did meaningful damage. So I'm not mad at this Gale Winds thing. Obviously, I think this is more tailored to Boomkins, but I think this works for any spec of Druid. Druids are really fluid. Like I said with the Druid stream that I did, like you could use not Wild Bloom, you could use Life Bloom effectively as a Feral Druid depending on your rating situation. So keep that in mind. Next, we have one of my favorite talents that they have in Wrath. I'm so glad to see this come out. Natural Reaction. So let's see what this iteration does. Increasing your dodge chance by 10% flat. That's really good. And you generate 3 rage every time you dodge while in bear form or dire bear form, or 10 energy while in cat form, or 1% of your maximum mana in any other form. So Natural Reaction in the Wrath iteration only works when you're in the bear form. So I'm okay with it working outside of bear form, but I love this talent. This just further fuel your rage generation, because if you don't know, obviously Druids can't parry, right? They can't block, they can't parry. So dodge is their main form of avoidance, and increasing their avoidance by a flat 10% is amazing. Them getting 3 rage every time they dodge is amazing. And the thing about dodge with vanilla and TBC, dodge had increasing returns, not diminishing returns. So the more dodge you have, the more likely you were able to dodge without suffering a detriment. So this is really, really good. You're probably going to see a lot of use of this probably later on when we do have a lot of dodge, when we have a lot of agility gear and we have a lot of dodge. But a flat 10%, I love Natural Reaction. Next, we have Renewal, which instantly heals yourself for 30% of your maximum health, usable in all forms, just like a big emergency self-heal, kind of like Desperate Prayer, kind of like that. And then a new one called Torrential Downpour. Now, this one doesn't have a tooltip kind of, but it does say 115 to 135 damage every 2 seconds. Periodic damage. So it's a dot. But it's weird because you would think the name Torrential Downpour makes me think that it's a healing thing, but clearly it does damage and it does periodic damage. So I guess there's more to come on that one. But that's really it for the Druids. Let's go on to the Hunters and see what they got. Adder Pheromone. So your Tame Beast ability works on adders as a companion pet. So I guess if they mean companion pet, like the little, like if you have like an owl or a cat, if that's what they mean, I don't really know why this needs to be a rune, but sure, I guess for flavor. Maybe there's something I'm missing. If there's hunters out there who catch this on a watchback, y'all can tell me better. But using Tame Beast on adders as a companion, that seems a little weird to me. I don't know. There has to be something I'm missing when it comes to the interaction of companion pets and hunters and adders, I guess specifically, because there's something like snakes specifically. So there must be something I'm missing. I'll have to do more research, but I guess there you have it. Tame Beast can now be worked on the companion snakes, the little snakes. Next we have Deer Musk. So Deer Musk, your Tame Beast ability now works on deers as a companion pet. Okay, I guess same thing. Maybe I'm missing something with deers and the little snakes that you find out in the world. I feel like there's more to come for these. Like I said, I'm sure there's going to be a hunter somewhere, or maybe I'll ask in the hunter Discord or something. What does this rune mean? Like, who care? Like, do we care about this? I don't know if I would, but hey, I could be missing something. But now for the big one, engraved belt. So I'm guessing these two are going on the belt engraving, as we said. The belt engraving, that's coming in the future. Right now, we only have the chest, the hands, and the legs. So the belt is coming in the future. But yeah, engraved belt, aspect of the lion. The hunter takes on the aspect of the lion, increasing total stats by 10% for all nearby allies, and increasing the total stats of the hunter by an additional 10%. So this is interesting because I was thinking about immediately as I'm reading the first line, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, you increase everybody's stats by 10%, but is that enough for a hunter to really want to use this over Aspect of the Hawk? Especially once you get talents invested into it. But increasing your total stats as the hunter by 20%, that might take the cake. So more to tell. I'm sure there'll be sims about this, or not sims, but theory crafts about this, and we'll figure it out. But it seems attractive. It seems like it's an attractive thing. Having 20% additional stats as the hunter might be, might close the gap or shorten the gap between using Aspect of the Lion or Aspect of the Hawk. Or Aspect of the Lion could just be flat out better. Who knows? Next, we have Rogues. It says Rogues might be getting a cheat death rune at some point. So we have cheating death is what it's called. Any attack which would otherwise kill you will reduce will instead reduce you to 10% of your maximum health. In addition, all damage taken is reduced by 90% for 3 seconds. This effect can only occur once per minute. So a minute cooldown on this is kind of wild. I'm going to be honest with you. A minute cooldown on something that can't kill you and reduces your damage taken by 90%. It's kind of wild. Even if it's only 3 seconds, this is a really big rune. Especially if this is going, okay, I guess it doesn't say where it's going, but if this is not competitive with like the tanking runes that rogues need, this is like, that almost makes rogues the best tank. A cheat death on every minute, this is better than Ardent Defender. A 90% cooldown every minute. Like this is to be determined. We got to see more of this. I got to see where this is going because I feel like 1 minute might be too short. That's kind of wild. I think the original cheat death was like 3 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. But 1 minute is crazy. 1 minute is crazy to me. But maybe they're anticipating rogues being the tank that, or maybe not just tank, but just being the class in general that's, susceptible to more damage. Who knows? Nevertheless, 1 minute is wild. So let's move on to the final rune data mined class, and that is the Warrior. This says Warriors getting a few interesting runes, including a rage generating War Machine and Gladiator stance. So War Machine, killing an enemy with experience or honor, generates 10 rage. Probably good for leveling. If it works on ads in dungeons or ads in raids, we'll see. Probably good for leveling, but I like the current iteration of War Machine. I think when you kill something, you gain like 10% attack speed and 30% movement speed. I'd much rather that, but that might be a little broken for vanilla, so I'm not mad at this one. Killing an enemy worth honor or experience is more flavored to vanilla than the current iteration of War Machine, so I get it. This rune is probably crazy in PvP. Warriors do be killing shit, so this rune is probably crazy in PvP, but it's okay. And then we have Gladiator stance. So we got a lot of aura mods, and this has to apply to all of the spells because you got to remember warriors, certain abilities only work with certain stances. So Gladiator stance, let's see if it has a tooltip. It doesn't currently have a tooltip yet. So we don't know what this does. What I am assuming, and this could be a good assumption or a bad assumption, what I'm assuming is that this is going to work similarly to like the WoD Gladiator stance where it increased your crit and your damage done by, a large amount while having a sword and shield equipped. Shield Slam did, something different. Devastate did something different. So it could be akin to that, but, time will tell. We'll see what happens with this. And this is all the list of abilities that kind of have to get reworked when you're using them in a different stance. So we'll see. All in all, for the runes, I'm not mad at them. I think Druids got a lot of new runes. I'm really happy and excited about Natural Reaction. I'm happy and excited about Efflorescence because I do like Resto Druid and I do like Feral Druid. The other ones seem to just be like quality of life things. Like they really love Resto here. I will say that though. Giving them Efflo, giving them a chance to get Everbloom, pardon me, giving them a chance to get Renewal. I think Resto, they're trying to increase the level of utility or just power that Resto has. So I'm not mad at that. As I said with the Hunter ones, I'm really not understanding the need for wanting to have deers and the little snakes as pets. I don't know, but I guess somebody will correct me or maybe inform me, or maybe I'll just do my own research and figure out like why was this needed. But Aspect of the Lion, I think I like this. I think it's an easy way to give both sides kings, so I'm not mad at it. Cheat Death I think is broken if it's a 1 minute cooldown. And we will wait to see what happens with Gladiator stance. that's it for the runes. Let's go on and talk about the rune slots. So evidently, when there's new runes, there are new rune slots. So if I find it, I thought I had it up here already. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Boom. All right. So this screenshot, if you see like this little gnome guy, this was from the demo that they had. So let me maximize this. So on the demo, if you went to BlizzCon and you got a chance to play, you saw something like this. And this just kind of shows a list of what may be to come in the future. So right now, obviously, we have chest, legs, and hands. But we also have a bracer rune slot, cloak, feet, helm, shoulders, waist. Basically every slot except trinkets and weapons. And obviously, we already knew this was coming. Blizzard had said on multiple occasions, on multiple different occasions, that there will be more rune slots to come. Just stay tuned. You know, the first phase is only 3 because the level cap's 25, so on and so forth. Got to move on. But yeah, I mean, this is exactly more of what we expected. Now, once we do have access to all of these runes, character customization is going to be pretty nuts. Like, you're going to be able to do a lot of nutty things with your individual characters, and that leads me to believe that the content in Season of Mastery is going to be pretty difficult because we're getting a lot of added / borrowed power that didn't exist in vanilla for mechanics that are relatively simple. So I think there's going to be a large shakeup when it comes to certain raids, certain dungeons, things of that nature, because we're going to have tools that we, you know, just didn't have access to before. Like priest get power word barrier. Like and I know I have a video coming up basically outlining the Resto Shaman and Disc Priest, but I just want to do a sneak peek real quick. I just want to show you real quick. Let me go to the talent calculator. I know I'm going on a tangent. I'm going to make it quick, and we're going to get back to the runes. But look at this. Priest get power word barrier. As of right now, I don't think runes have a spec tied to them. Like, you can use power word barrier whether you're disciplined, whether you're holy, whether you're shadow. And power word barrier is a phenomenally strong cooldown. I had said in my priest video that's coming up, when power word barrier got introduced in Cataclysm, it wasn't 25% like the tooltip is saying. It was actually 30%. They nerfed it. But even at 25%, top-end guilds were using, you know, multiple powered barriers. And at the time, it was just Disc Priest only. It was the capstone talent for Disc. They were using multiple priests with powered barrier just to ignore phases and ignore mechanics because it was that strong. Just a consistent 25% DR that made, while you were in it, it made casters have complete spell pushback immunity. Like, it was nuts. So the fact that now this strong cooldown that is seemingly not tied to the Disc tree, I think it's just tied to whatever spec you are, can just be dropped. Like, people are like, we already laughed at the content before. Like, look at Season of Mastery. Look how fast people were killing things, not only in Season of Mastery, in 2019 vanilla. And now you give them powered barrier? Jesus. So I think the content is definitely going to be harder than what people are assuming it to be, unless they start tying different rune abilities to different specs. Like if they say, all right, power barrier, but you can only be Disc, right? If they say, you know, Mind Seer, but you can only be Shadow, like, then that's when you start balancing certain things. But I don't know. If you guys feel different, let me know in the comments or let me know in the chat. But I feel like just having any priest with power word barrier is kind of nutty, especially on the Shadow side. Like, looking at the leg slot, there's not really even anything that's super crazy in this for the Shadow. Like, yeah, shared pain is great. That's a good quality of life thing. You know, having Shadow word pain go to 2 other targets within 15 yards. That's cool. That saves you some time from tabbing, but that's not. You think this is more impactful than power word barrier? You're out of your mind. We have yet to see what Homunculi does and like it says what they're going to debuff, but how much, we don't know values yet. We don't know what the attack speed reduction value is. We don't know what the attack power reduction value is. We don't know what the armor reduction value is. And we don't know if any of these things stack with other things. Like, does this armor reduction stack with Sunder? Like, that's what we still need more information. But what I do know is that power barrier is incredibly strong, and having a Shadow Priest active, not active, but having accessible to Shadow is kind of nutty, or all specs is just kind of nutty. So that was my little priest tangent, but let me go back. If my computer wants to cooperate with me. There we go. But yeah, looking at this is just more of what we already knew what was coming, right? We knew more runes were coming. We knew this was a possibility. So I mean, you kind of knew just by looking at the BlizzCon screenshot. So there you have it. All right, let's go back. It looks like we're getting some new world buffs too. So world buffs have always been kind of a point of contention. Some people feel like you need world buffs to. Pardon me, I had to take a swig. Some people feel like you need world buffs to complete content, and that means that it dilutes the content. Some people feel like world buffs aren't even a thing. You can clear all the content without having world buffs and be fine. I'm a bit indifferent about world buffs. I don't really care. I don't think a guild needs everyone to have world buffs for them to clear the content. Obviously, having the world buffs is better. If you're a speedrunning guild, if you're a guild of that quality, that caliber, who's pumping through content, then yeah, world buffs are gonna just make it easier. But I don't think like an average guild doesn't become above average just because they have world buffs. Right? That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm indifferent about world buffs. But when it comes to the new world buffs, let's see what we got. We have, pardon me. Actually, this is just Ashenvale stuff. We'll talk about. Actually, no. Let's go back. Let's go back and talk about Black Fathom depths because I think that's the one that people are gonna be interested in because that's accessible to most people. Not saying that Ashenvale isn't, but I want to talk about Black Fathom first, real quick. So Black Fathom has a new world buff called Boon of Black Fathom. You can see it here. And increases the critical chance of spells, melee, and ranged attacks by 2%. Also increases your attack power by 20 and increases your movement speed by 20%. Has a 2-hour duration. I think for the most part, this is a pretty tame buff. It's nothing phenomenal. I feel like there's probably other world buffs out there that are stronger than this one, but this one isn't bad. For a 10-man, this ain't bad. No word on how you get this yet. I would imagine that you probably kill the last boss on Black Fathom, get a quest item from them, and then you move on with life. And then there's an Ashenvale world buff. You have Ashenvale Rallying Cry, increasing all damage done and healing by 5% for 2 hours. Again, not super crazy. Nothing, nothing game breaking, but a nice little buff. Other world buffs, other new buffs present seem to be in shrines currently. It's unsure if these will be open world buffs or full-blown world buffs. So we got a list of buffs that seem to come, but they don't really have anything. We got some here. So we have Anointed by Alune, gives you 5% intellect. Anointed by Light, which is 5% spirit. Anointed by the Loa, which is 5% stam. And Anointed by Undeath, which increases your armor by 5%. So we got a couple buffs here. None of these are all nice to have, I guess, too. Like I don't feel like, again, in general, I don't feel like world buffs are something that turns an average guild above average, right? If you are wiping, what's a super easy boss? If you're wiping to the Fear on Magmadar, right? If you're wiping to the Fear on Magmadar, world buffs don't change that. If people don't know how to handle the Fear, you're not dropping Tremor, things of that nature. You don't. World buffs don't change that. So I'm indifferent, but these world buffs don't seem too crazy to me. I'll keep it that. Actually, let's do that. Pardon me. And then this is the one I actually clicked on. Looks like, hold on, let me go back real quick. Y'all see this? We're getting like new information, as I'm doing this stream, which is actually kind of dope because that means I can talk about them in live kind of. So I like it. So here we have Seasonal Discovery, Ashenvale, PvP, open world buffs, leader buff factions, allies, and then we got a little tidbit here. So Blizzard, still on the topic of PvP, can you explain the Ashenvale open world PvP event? From what we got, it sounded kind of like Alterac Valley. Then they're saying it's a little bit different because you had to queue for Alterac Valley, whereas Ashenvale's an instant zone, which I guess you just waltz up in. Pardon me. I would have liked to know what made them choose Ashenvale. I feel like that's kind of dangerous to be in Alliance because you have the Barons kind of right there. And then you have Orgrimmar right there. So I don't know. I feel like depending on what server you play on, Ashenvale, like the disparity between Horde and Alliance can get pretty skewed. Like it's not easy for an Alliance player to get to Ashenvale. It's very easy for a Horde player to get to Ashenvale. So I don't know. I feel like Ashenvale being the focal point is kind of weird. But then some people felt that way about Alterac Valley. But then again, you could queue for Alterac Valley. So I don't know. But anyway. Going back to this, it says the rewards we're putting in, which have different levels. There's a reward for just participating. There's also camps, some special characters like a Horde Blade Master. These camps are spread out. We're also adding new items and reputations to the vendors. There's also going to be Ashenvale only mounts, which we've seen. We've seen Agron and Nora talk about them, so on and so forth. And then the person puts, "Oh my God, we love world buffs and classic. Yes, what you described sound like it could be an open world thing." Then the developer here says, "What I will say is that I think outdoor world content that we're building in Asheville is more representative of what we want. We want there to be discoveries to encourage players to dig into unknown places. We want them to build existing lore and fantasy of the zones and have more outdoor world content, whether that's PvP events or new world bosses, whether there's things that to discover that aren't necessarily associated with new abilities. Maybe there are new elites in certain zones or new events related to the fishing tournament." Interesting. All of this to me culminates into Blizzard is ready to fully dive into new stuff. And it's one of the biggest criticisms I used to give them for Season of Mastery is that what they did for Season of Mastery was not enough. They weren't willing to change anything about the classes, so the meta relatively stayed the same. They did do some changes to the bosses. I'll give them that. Certain bosses, obviously they had increased health pools, all that stuff, but certain bosses, spawn different ads, abilities hurt more, this, that, and the third. Ultimately, it didn't really matter to the community. Like, they still smoked all of the content. So now that they're actually putting, they're going knee deep into treacherous waters, or maybe not treacherous waters, but new waters, new territory, and willing to make changes is what I like, and really I think what the community likes. I think that's why Season of Discovery is so well received. So I cannot wait for it. We are literally getting updates new. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. So we got new Druid idols, Paladin Librams, and Shaman icons on the Season of Discovery. So obviously you can see here, there's a lot of data mining going on, but we have the Ferocious idol. It doesn't have a tooltip yet. It just says filled with inspiration and Saproc. So these are all of the Druid idols: Idol of Earth Sign, Lunar Idol, Unbalanced Idol of Dream, Unbalanced Idol of the Moon. Then you have all the Paladin Librams, Libram of Banishment, Libram of Blessing, Libram of Judgment, Libram of Justice. This I kind of like because I feel like even going into TBC, Druids and Paladins kind of like, we'll say Druids and Ret Paladins, or Feral Druids and Ret Paladins kind of were stuck using old world items. I remember on my Feral Druid, I had to get that idol from Strathome, and that's pretty much what I used up until like the very latter portions of TBC. As a Ret Paladin, you got this one idol from the dungeon, and you didn't even change that until like Wrath. And like even Wrath, certain idols like in the earlier dungeons, the Utgard keeps and stuff like that, weren't better than that TBC idol. So I'm glad to see more variety. I'm hoping this means that it gives you more of an option to change the idols, the icons, the Librams, so on and so forth. So this isn't bad. I'm liking this. Jesus. All right. And then we got new profession recipes with Season of Discovery, a new mana oil, and a new sharpening stone. So let's check it out. Elixir of the Coalesced Regret. Doesn't say what it does, but we're here for it. Then we have Black Fathom Sharpening Stone. While applied to the target weapon, hit chance increased by 2% for 30 minutes. This is big. This is big. Increasing your hit by 2% is big. There was a very large discussion. I think it was on my Shaman and my Paladin tank stream video, where people in the comments were talking about hit and whether you're going to need it, whether you're not going to need it. Some people criticized me on saying I should have recommended the hit talent and the resto tree for Shaman tanks because you're going to need hit. Some people say it's not going to matter. Like, we're at level 25. What's hit cap at level 25? What does that even look like? So I think there's like some disparaging ideas about what you're going to need for hit, how much you're going to need, so on and so forth. But I think this sharpening stone kind of bridges the gap a little bit because a free 2% hit is important. So I like it. And generally speaking, sharpening stones are relatively cheap to purchase. Like, you're not going to spend an arm and a leg trying to get the sharpening stone. Hopefully. I don't know the mats. Let me mouse over real quick, see if it says anything. It does not tell me the mats. So we don't know the mats, but we'll see. We'll see. All in all, I think this is a great buff. A hit buff is always welcome, especially in the world of vanilla. Let's see, we got Black Fathom Mana Oil. It doesn't tell me what it does. We have Shredder Auto Salvage Unit. Does not tell me what it does. We have some Void Touch leather gauntlets and leather gloves. Don't think that's, yep. So all this stuff is still being data mined currently. So the only thing we got so far is we know that the Black Fathom Sharpening Stone will give 2% hit, which I think is pretty good. Pretty good. So I'm not mad at this. And I think that's it for new stuff. I'm sure we're going to see some more data mine stuff. So if you're chilling, keep an eye on Wildhead. Keep that refresh button handy. You'll probably see some new stuff. I'm pretty sure some of the raid stuff is going to be data mined too, and if that comes out, I'm probably going to do either a stream or a video on it. I have the Resto Shaman and the Disciplined Priest healer breakdowns for talents and runes coming up. So I already have them recorded. Just got to do some editing, post it out there. They're pretty short videos, nothing that you got to spend, your whole life watching. So those are coming up. I plan on doing all of the healers as we get more information. Pardon me. And I'll gauge the interest in DPS. I'll see. I don't know if people want to see that. I normally just cover tanks and healers because those are the roles that I play respectively. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see. Maybe I'll cover some DPS. I am interested in to see what the meta looks like now that everyone is getting a boost in power. Like, it won't just be warriors, mages, rogues, and warlocks at the top. Now I feel like there's a fair shake for a lot of different classes, a lot of different specs. So I am very excited to see that. As far as someone had asked me before, as far as a tiering list, like a tier list for the tanks and the healers, I still think it's too early to say what's going to be the best tank, what's going to be the best healer, so on and so forth. Only because, again, I don't know the bosses in Black Fathom Deeps. I don't know the type of damage they deal. I don't know what kind of abilities they're going to have. I don't know what ads we're going to be dealing with. So there's a lot of information I need before I'm comfortable doing a tier list for tanks and healers. Some people might have, might be privy to more information than me, so they're able to do it. I think it's too early for any content creator for real to have a definitive tier list that they like stand by. Maybe if you want to do like a speculative one, maybe I could do that real quick, but I wouldn't stand by a tier list. Not one that I make, not one that I see, because I think we just don't have enough information yet. I should have had my tier list generator up. Maybe I'll save that for like a stream for tomorrow. So I'll do a speculative tiering for all of the tanks and all of the healers. That's a good stream for tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. But off the top of my head, just to give a little content here. Off the top of my head, I would say, judging from what I've seen so far, when it comes to the tanks, I don't know about the healers. I want to look at the healers again, but the tanks, so far, if we're talking raid tanking, like what I mean by that is primarily like boss tanking, I feel like defensively, Druids still might take the cake. I think Druids still might be the better defensive tank. And I'll go into their talents real quick, and I'll show you why real quick. I think Druids might be the one. So with Druids, with my Druid video, my Druid stream, I said that Druids have a lot of flexibility in their talents. Like I said, you can take, the generic, the average, 5 out of 5 ferocity, 5 out of 5 thick hide, feral charge, 3 out of 3 sharpened claws, and put 2 in feral instinct. I say 2 in feral instinct only because Druids are really, really good at threat, and having sharpened claws and having ferocity is going to fuel your threat. At level 25, I don't think you're going to have too many threat problems. Moving on to the runes real quick, and this is really going to also fuel your threat. Just pure defenses, so not offensive, just defensively. Survival of the Fittest, I think, is a no-brainer. Pardon me. I think when it comes here, none of these are defensive runes, but I think the one that's going to give you more threat over the longer period of time is probably Lacerate. Now, I debated this heavily on my stream because in TBC, Mangle hits like a truck. I had said it before. If a Mangle crit and a hit, that's basically a taunt. Whatever you just hit is now your best friend for the end of time. The only reason why I kind of fell back and chose Lacerate overall is because I think, one, I don't know the cooldown on Mangle, right? So it might get jumbled up with the maul, with maul usage, but I mean, I didn't really have that issue in TBC, so I doubt you have that issue in vanilla, because you don't even have the improved Mangle talent in TBC. You get that in Wrath, and that shortens the cooldown to freeze you up for a lot of things. So I don't think that, but I also think that Lacerate is going to generate a little bit more threat. So if we look at it real quick, I think I did some simple math, super simple math that I also could be wrong on. But look at Mangle. Mangle the target for 160% normal damage and cause the target to take 30% additional bleed damage, right? This ability benefits and triggers from all associated claw and maul effects, right? So if this tooltip means that Mangle also increases the damage on maul, this is the best threat talent. If that doesn't mean that, if it's just, Mangle, whatever, then Mangle is still a good threat talent, but maybe not the best for longer fights. The reason why I pick Lacerate is Lacerate the enemy dealing bleed damage, pardon me, and dealing a little bit of damage over time plus 20% of weapon damage per stack. So if you have a really good weapon and at 5 stacks you have 100%, pardon me, 100% increased damage from Lacerate. Lacerate could out threat Mangle over a longer period. So I think I did pick Lacerate here. And as far as the leg slot is concerned, I had said Skull Bash is the one that you pick, but if there are no interrupts in these new raids coming out, then Life Bloom also sees some merit when you're not tanking, when you have the free GCD, like you're waiting for the taunt, your ads are dead, you're just chilling waiting for that taunt. You can throw a Life Bloom up there and either put it on the active tank to kind of help alleviate the healers, or put it on yourself and prep for tanking. So that is something that you could do. But if you need the interrupt, obviously Skull Bash is there. And Skull Bash also operates as like a short form charge, as a 13-yard distance, which is like half the distance of a warrior charge. So it's like, because warrior's like what, 8 to 25 or 8 to 30. So 13 yards is like right in that middle ground. So you can, if anything, you can use it as that. But also you can think about using it like that if you don't want to talent into feral charge. I like to talent into feral charge because I really think it's great. It interrupts, it immobilizes. So, and it's on a short cooldown, right? So I like that. But again, we'll say, just because we're talking about defenses, we'll go Life Bloom. But yeah, I think Druid gets the takes the cake for defensive play and defensive tanks and surviving things, because now you have survival of the fittest, right? So now you're crit immune. So all of that armor and all of that all of that stamina that you get while being in bear form is really good. It reduces all damage taken by 10% and an additional 10% if you're in bear form. So a 20% DR on already something that's super tanky. Like, I think bear is really the best. Now, I could be completely wrong. Like, Black Fathom Dips can have a whole bunch of magic damage in it, and they'd be like, yo, so you lied, bro. So depending on how much magic damage is being done, really kind of tiers the Druid a little bit. But even still, even if there is a fair amount of magic damage in Black Fathom, you still get a 20% DR at all times while in bear form. That's huge. And if you compare it with something like the Rogue, who, I know I said I wouldn't do a tier list, right? And I'm basically doing a pseudo tier list. But if you compare it with something like the Rogue, who has just a flesh wound, who only takes 20% reduced physical damage, and that's only while Blade Dance is active. That's not just passively. If Blade Dance falls off, you just lost your buff. So I don't even think it's fair to compare just a flesh wound and survival of the fittest plus bear form. Remember, rogues don't have a bear form. They don't have a stance that they shift in to help tank. Now, they have a lot of avoidance. I will give them that. They have a lot of avoidance. So it's going to be really, really hard for rogues to take damage if they're fighting something that primarily does physical damage, right? I think I use Patchwork as an example. Like, Patchwork doesn't do any magic damage, so rogues are basically not going to be able to get hit by them, to be quite honest. Like, rogues are going to be really good at avoiding things. But things that have magic damage, or dragons that do breath attacks, rogues are going to get hit hard. Now, this could be subject to change. This could be a tooltip error. This could really mean just the flesh wound reduces all damage by 20%. That's an easy change that Blizzard can make. So I'm here to see. But like I said, I think I'll do a speculative tier list based off of the information that we have thus far, and not a definitive one. I would not stand by a definitive one because it's just too early to figure out what's going to be good, what's going to be bad. Now, DPS is different. DPS, you can probably do more of a serious tier list because it doesn't really matter too much what type of damage the raid is taking when it comes to DPS, right? Like, a warrior doesn't care if a boss is doing magic or physical damage. They're still going to do their DPS. So DPS, you can kind of get away with early tier lists. Even still, those kind of things are kind of meh because you don't know if something's an ad fight. You don't know if you're fighting one target. You don't know if you're fighting like a council style, like a 3-target thing. So even DPS tier lists, you kind of have to be wary on. But I would say out of all the roles, it's probably safest to do an early DPS tier list versus doing a tank or a healer one, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, I think I'm going to do a speculative. I'm going to do a speculative tank list and a speculative healer list. What up, Big Biz? Red Paladin gonna be S tier with Druids having Winfrey type buff now. I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible. I'm looking at the. I can show it real quick. Pardon me. Looking at the Ret runes, they get Divine Storm, they get Seal of the Martyr, they get. I mean, I don't know how much use Horn of Winter is gonna. I call it Horn of Winter. I shouldn't have said that. Horn of Lordaeron. It's basically Horn of Winter. Blizzard, just add Death Knights. Why y'all do this? Why y'all did this? Y'all could have just added Death Knights. But anyway, I'm not sure how much usage Horn of Lordaeron is gonna have, especially since it's exclusive with Blessing of Might. But there's a high chance you're going to have more than one paladin. So one paladin might just have to be that guy who, takes the bullet and he can't take Divine Storm or Seal of Martyr. He got to take Horn of Lordaeron to buff everybody. So who knows? But I think Red's in a good spot. Red's going to be in a good spot. They get, like I said, they get Divine Storm. They get Seal of the Martyrdom. They get Crusader Strike. Really, really good. And they get, pardon me, they get a Rebuke now. So their utilities increase. They have access to like a Tremor aura, I guess if you want to call it. They have Exorcist now. Exorcist can be used on any target. Like, yeah, they have Divine Sack now. Like Ret does have some both defensive utility and offensive chances for it to be great. So I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that take. Ret can be good. I think Blizzard kinda, not just Ret but Paladins in general, they kinda wanted to push them up a little bit more because generally speaking, very generally speaking, in vanilla, if you're a paladin, by the time you get to end game, people are probably pushing you to be holy. Like, that's just a reality situation. I think Ret was memed to death for being low damage. Even with as popular as S-Fan is, I think he's more of a personality than like a serious Ret Paladin theory crafter. Not saying he's not good at the class, but I think he was playing it more so just for the memes and because he has a really good personality. Like he's entertaining to watch as a Ret Paladin. So if you're entertaining and you play a meme spec, that's just a great combination for content. But I think Blizzard's trying to give them a little bit of a push. But yeah, I think defensively, if I had to just pick one off the top of my head, I would say Druid is looking like it's going to be in a good place to be generally the best tank for most things. Maybe not ad tanking. If there's like more than like, if there's a fight where ad tanking is a really strong part of it, Druid's not going to be the best. I think that probably goes to either Warrior or Shaman. Probably Shaman, just because their way. I think their Way of the Mastery rune is stronger than the Aegis rune. Just my opinion, but we can check it out real quick. Whoop, my bad. Sorry, I'm still trying to get over this cough. But not Way of the Earth. What did I say? Way of the Earth? I meant Shield Mastery. Jesus. Yeah. Each time you block, you generate 4% mana and you gain armor equal to 30% of your shield. Stacking 5 times. That stacking 5 times part really, really is what kind of drives it. Also, you always gain 10% increased chance to block and 15% increased value. This rune really just scales really good with gear. If you have a great shield, you're going to get more armor. If you have a great shield, you're going to get more more block chances and more block value. Oh, what up, Cat? Your Paladins are pretty unfortunate in Classic. Their next tier didn't have enough strength on it. The devs were just done pretending they could do anything but heal. I mean, yeah, you're right about that. I think the devs, I feel like they really became unhinged. I feel like with Season of Discovery, someone like let the reins loose and was like, yo, do your thing. Do your thing. Oof. Slowly dying over here. But nah. Oh, man. I want to try Rogue Tank with just a Flesh Wound, Blade Dance, and Main Guard. Seems like Rogue Tank is going to have to make sure that Blade Dance is always up. Yeah, I mean, that's why it's one of their finishers. So I think that's just going to be commonplace. I think, just a very baseline rune spread is going to be this, just the Flesh Wound, Main Gosh, Blade Dance. You get your physical reduction. You get all of your tank stuff, not just physical reduction. You get all of your tank stuff from just the Flesh Wound. You get 10% parry from Main Gosh, and you get 10% parry when you use it on max combo points on Blade Dance. Plus, rogues just have a lot of avoidance. I went through this in the rogue stream. They have lightning reset flexes for 5% dodge, deflection for 5% parry. They have a reduced cooldown on an evasion through endurance. They have repost every time you parry. you can use this ability. It does 150% weapon damage, which is a lot. That's a lot, especially if you have a good weapon. That's a lot, and it disarms the target if it's able to be disarmed. Like that's crazy. Like Riposte is going to be a crazy ability in my opinion. So rogues just have a lot going for them. I think they're going to be slept on though, and I think baseline looking at this, if they don't have any changes, I think rogues are going to struggle with magic damage though. Magic damage or true damage because they don't have any magic mitigation. They don't have, to my knowledge, I can breeze through this real quick. They don't have any stamina increases outside of just getting good gear. I could be wrong. I'm just looking through the talents real quick just to make sure I'm not missing something. This is a maximum energy increase. Yeah, I don't see any stamina or armor increases for the rogue. Pardon me. No, I'm not seeing. Oh, what's this? After dodging an attack. So that's setup. So that's something different. I also thought that Ghostly Strike is going to be something later that rogues take, but I don't know. I feel like I said in the rogue thing, I feel like the first beginning, like the first tier and the second tier subtlety trees are just too like meh for you to invest the talent points to get Ghostly Strike. Pardon me. But we will see. We will see. I also think that Cheat Death Rune is going to be, depending on where it's at. If it's not in one of these slots, like if it's not on, I feel like it can't be on the chest or the legs because you kind of need Blade Dance for just the flesh wound to give you the physical damage reduction. So it can't be on chest or legs. So the most logical sense for it to be is on hands or a new rune. And you got to gauge if it's on the hand slot. So you got to give it's either main gosh or cheat death, right? Do you give up 10% parry for a cheat death every minute? Probably, if you have good gear. And if it's not on the hand slot, then I hope there's some compelling options for the other slots because rogues having cheat death is just going to be unfair. Every minute. That's crazy to me. But we'll see. Maybe, like I said, maybe they will put it on one of the conflicting runes, which I don't think they will because you couldn't put it on, and that's me thinking, you know what? They could put it on chest or legs because that's me thinking that cheat death has to be a tank rune. It doesn't have to be. It could be a PvP rune. It could just be a defensive rune for DPS rogues. It does not have to be a tank rune. So I do take it back. It very much so could be on the chest or leg rune, which would be unfortunate. It just means that rogue tanks couldn't use it, which, I mean, GG. Imagine a rogue having a better cheat death mechanic than the paladin. That's wild. But yeah, I will do a speculative tank tier list at some point. But I think that's it. Let me just double check and make sure we didn't get any new drops. Nothing new as of yet. I'm really excited for the new sharpening stone, the 2% hit. Like that's gonna be big. It's gonna be big in my opinion. But other than that, I think that's it, guys. Yeah, I didn't want the stream to go on too long anyway. Just kind of want to get some new information out the way. But that's it for the stream. I got the Resto Shaman video, and the disc video coming up soon. Other than that, you guys know the drill. You've been great. I've been Soul, and I'm out. Peace.